You know, all off season when I said that the Sixers should load manage Joel Embiid this season, I did not expect it to start off like this. By any means, I did not expect it to be like this. But going even a step further, we got more information and intel today from Nick Nurse. We'll take a look at a little bit of video footage, and we'll hear from some of the main reporters as well on what is really going on here. But welcome into Philly Take with RB. I'm glad that I just took a second, because this came out about an hour ago. I'm glad I took a little bit to think about this. I think there's good and there's bad as well. We'll get into it, but breaking news just coming out about an hour ago. Sixers Joel Embiid and Paul George are out for the opener against the Bucks on Wednesday. Embiid is progressing well and ramping up, scrimmaging this week. He will not play this week. George will be reevaluated later in the week. This comes out from Shams Charania and the entire Sixers Twitter sphere. You already know it's like a freaking chemical lab. But with this news, you know, with everything, all the hype, they are going absolutely nuts right now. I had to take a step back and think about this, but a little more on the situation. Sham says that Joel Embiid will at least not play in the following games: the Bucks, Raptors on Friday, and Pacers on Sunday. So Joel Embiid will miss the first 3 games of the season. Ladies and gentlemen, give me your thoughts and reactions down in the comments section. Embiid will be reevaluated this week, and the team announced. I said in the video yesterday, for those who watched, something was not adding up. Something was not right. Joel Embiid not scrimmaging 2 days before the season opener. That's when it really clicked to me, right? We figured that Paul George was going to be out. We knew that Maxey was probably in, McCain's iffy, but we knew that Paul George would be out. We did not expect Joel Embiid to be out, but once I heard that a couple days ago and yesterday, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Joel is not going to start this season for the Sixers, and it was confirmed today. Now, before I jump into my opinions and thoughts, and we have a couple interesting stats I want to relay here, let's hear what Nick Nurse has to say about Joel Embiid. He says, there are not any setbacks with Joel Embiid. This is all just a part of the plan for him. Nurse reiterates that Embiid has lost a lot of weight and that he looks good. This is all just the plan at the moment. Okay, so this is what they are trying to implement this year. And keep in mind, we heard this in the last couple weeks, right? We heard that, you know, they have an injury management plan, a load management plan. We heard that coming into training camp. He's not going to be practicing as much, scrimmaging, things like that. But what we didn't hear is that they probably already have a set amount of games that he's going to play this season. We'll get into it. Here's what Nick Nurse had to say after practice.
Nick, obviously we got the updates on Joe and Paul this morning. I guess it's what are the next steps for both those guys as you guys move forward?
I mean, pretty much the way they're laid out. Like, again, they're evaluating them here as we go. Just as soon as we can get them out there and get them scrimmaging and get them ramped up, we'll get them in the action.
And Joel has continued to be able to just like do the same thing. Everything he's been able to do except scrimmaging so far.
Yes.
No, Nick.
So Nick Nurse not really giving much clarity, just saying they're going to go through the process and try to get them out there when they can. You know, we know he's not going to say much, but we now see, right? The Sixers have a concrete, structured plan for Joel Embiid this season. And all off season, I've been the advocate saying, I only want Joel Embiid to play X amount of games. I want him to be load managed. I just think with the hype and the buildup is where the frustration comes. I think there's good and bad about this. We will start off with the bad. The bad is that depending on how many games he plays, the Sixers might not have enough time to gain the chemistry as a team, right? Because PG might be out in X amount of games and maybe Maxey misses some and Embiid, etc. They have to get on the floor together. They have to come together as a unit. We've seen that with other teams over the years. Those who have that continuity factor that Joel always talks about, those who can really, you know, find that rhythm together, especially early in the season, you know, can hopefully build that championship identity. So I think that's the bad part. The good part is that Joel Embiid might finally get a healthy playoff run. The question is, how much does he need to be on the floor to be able to do that, right? Is he just the freak accident guy who, you know, maybe he only plays 40 games this year and he still gets hurt, right? Or maybe they actually have him fresh for the playoffs and he takes his team all the way and wins a championship. It's a tough line to draw, but I think with everything the Sixers have tried, obviously now they have, I would say, hopefully the right roster around him for once, but he also needs to be on the floor and he gets hurt big time every single season. So The good thing is that hopefully this will keep him more fresh. The bad thing is we don't have a lot of certainty. We know the Sixers love to hide injury situations, a lot of crazy ones over the years, but I want to talk about a couple interesting stats, okay? When the Raptors load managed Kawhi Leonard back in 2018, the year they win the championship, first year with Nick Nurse, had a pretty good team. They were not by any means the best team. They didn't have a lot of expectations coming into the season, started off hot, but here's the key stat. The team was 17-5 without Kawhi Leonard. He came back fresh, right? This was after the year of all uncertainty in San Antonio. They didn't know if he was going to play or not. He pretty much just kept declining the questions, and then they never heard from him. Then he gets traded to the Raptors, and he is pretty much load managed the entire year. He misses 22 games, and then they go on that massive miracle playoff run and win the chip. And Nick Nurse in that season found ways to make the team successful without Joel Embiid. The tough part is that Joel's identity impacts the way the team plays, right? So if they're doing really good without Embiid, but then he comes back, they have to completely change their offense, their defense, everything, their whole dynamic around Joel Embiid. But this team, this organization has never been able to succeed without Joel Embiid. And if there's a coach who hopefully can find ways to win without him, it is Nick Nurse. Now, last season, they just did not have the depth, but now you have Andre Drummond, right? This is why you go out and get Andre Drummond. He's going to be starting a handful of games this year. He is capable of doing so. Now, the backup to Drummond when he's starting is another question, but Nurse needs to find ways to win games. Hopefully, another good part about this is that Maxey now takes the keys, right? We've been talking about him. I've been saying I think he's going to be in MVP talks this year, maybe get a couple of votes, but really be a top 15 player. I hope it's not for the wrong reasons, right? I hope Maxey's just that good. But if Embiid and PG are missing a lot of games, hopefully Maxey's ready to take the keys, put them in the ignition, and drive the car down the highway. And, you know, this could really be a big leap for Maxey. And I think this team does have enough to win games without Joel Embiid. Now, again, PG can't miss the whole damn season, but it seems like he's going to be all right. And Nick Nurse is hopefully the guy that can be able to figure it out, and it has to be a collective team effort. Also, the Sixers back in 2022 went 0-3 during opening week. They had a 500 record through the first quarter of the season and still won 54 games. Although this is a mostly different group, having a healthy Joel through the regular season and beyond is all that matters. And I think that's the more level-headed take when you take a step back after the frustration sets down. Are we really going to care that these guys missed the opening game against Milwaukee? I mean, Chris Middleton's out for the Bucks. We've seen the last couple of years where everybody is depleted in the playoffs, and it really just doesn't matter if they play the first game. But yeah, there's all the hype. We're frustrated. We wanted to see this group together. We wanted to see the core, and it already feels like those injury bugs are settling in. So maybe they get it out of the way. But there's been seasons where Embiid comes out, his conditioning sucks, and he looks terrible in the first 5 games, and then he just becomes an MVP. So that's what we have to remind ourselves. I think the Sixers have explored all avenues, and now they're at the point, also given Nick Nurse's track history with Kawhi Leonard, where they say, this is going to be our best chance of getting to the playoffs and winning. That's what I think they're saying from the top down. They're saying, screw everything else. The awards are, a certain amount of games now. We don't care about that. We don't want anything. Joel is hungry. He wants to get one healthy playoff run, and these guys are getting older, and they're injury prone, and this is how we best do it. So again, you got to teeter the line a little bit. You can't have them play too little and not really get to play at all together. We've seen that with teams before, like Phoenix. But I think overall, they're looking at the long-term picture for once, which is a positive sign. So I think there's good and bad to it. But here's Joel Embiid and Paul George after practice today. Still getting the jumpers up. PG insists that he's fine. I mean, Joel looks fine too. But maybe this is also a way of the Sixers trying to avoid any penalties from the NBA, where they're saying he has an injury management, program, and they just don't want to say we're straight up load managing because the NBA does not like that anymore. You're not even allowed to do it anymore. So maybe they're just trying to duck any potential penalties or things like that. So that's really what I got, man. Here's the Raptors schedule back in 2018. Like I said, they had a lot of uncertainty too, and they started off the season really, really hot. Toronto Raptors 2018, they end up beating the Magic in the first round after losing the first game. Then they beat the Sixers in that Game 7 disappointment, heartbreaker, and then they beat the Bucks 4-2. Obviously, a lot of injuries they faced along the way, but they end up winning the finals. So hopefully this will be a similar path for the Sixers this year, but I understand the frustration. You know, I get why people are pissed off, and I would not blame you if you are, but let's try to look at the long term a little bit, and hopefully this is the best route to take. Give me all of your thoughts and reactions down in the comments. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That being said, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.